Next, we're going to look at the metric system. The metric system is another form of measurement. It gives us another system to work with to measure things. Our objective in this video is to understand how the metric system works and how to convert between different units of measure within the metric system. The nice thing about the metric system is a system of measure based on tens, which is how our number system works, 10, 100, 1,000. So it makes it very, very easy to convert between different units. The metric system has three primary units. The meter is measured as a measure of distance, the liter is a measure of volume, and a gram is a measure of weight. Notice the abbreviations M for meter, capital L for liter, and G for a gram. And again, because this is based on a system of 10, it makes it really easy to convert between different size units. All we have to think about is shifting that decimal place around. We think every single decimal place is off by a measure of 10. So just to give you a couple quick examples over here to the left, let's say I have 103. Well, that is exactly 10 units larger than 10.3. If I were to multiply these two numbers, we would get to this other unit. We've just shifted that decimal place over and we get there. We can also divide things. We can make them smaller by dividing to get to that other unit, just shifting that decimal place around. So because we work with tens very easily, it's just a matter of moving that decimal place around. It's going to make the calculations very, very easy. Rather than thinking about things as multiplying by tens or dividing by tens, an easy way to do it is just to consider this sliding scale. We have whatever our base unit would be. So maybe it's a meter, maybe it's liter, maybe it's a gram. And to shift around, if we want to go from km, which stands for kilometer, or to a decimeter, let's say, we'd shift 1, 2, 3, 4, and we shift 4 units to the right. We want to go from a centimeter, which is quite small, to a meter, we'd have to go 2 units to the left. And so it's just a matter of shifting this decimal point around. So again, that base unit is one of these three. And then each of these prefixes stands for the following. K is for kilo, H is for hecto, DA is for deca, D is for deci, C is for centi, M is for milli. So these are common ones. These are ones that we're going to start with in this video, and they give us a pretty good idea of how things work. You may have heard of plenty of other things, for instance, nano or pico, giga. A lot of times we hear these terms as computer terms, and we'll talk about those in a minute, but gigabytes or nanobytes, things like that. Nano and pico would be very, very small, even smaller than the deci, centi, and milli. Giga is a very large unit of measure, and so we have some other prefixes as well, but these are the ones we're going to focus on, we're going to start with. So let's take some examples. I'm going to start with example 1. I want to convert 20 hectograms to grams. And I'm going to use this sliding scale to help me. So I'm starting with 20 hectograms. I'm going to just place my 20. Same way I did my other conversions, I'm going to start with the number, I start with the 20. Nice thing about the metric, I'm not even going to pay attention to really the unit. I'm not going to cross that out. I'm going to pay attention to it on my scale. So if I start with the hectograms, the H, I need to move 1, 2 units to the right. So where is the decimal point right now in this 20? Well, it's right here. It's behind that number. So I'm going to take that decimal place and shift it to the right. Now you might be looking at that saying, well, wait a minute, there's not numbers to the right. How are you going to shift it to the right? Keep in mind, there's always zeros around. So I'm going to take this decimal place and move it 1, 2 positions. And so my number is now 2,000 grams. And that would be my answer. Notice I didn't actually need that last zero. I can get rid of that. I only needed to move it 2 units. So I shifted across 2 zeros. Let's take the 450 centimeters. Well, centimeters right here. Hectometers all the way over here. So we got to go 1, 2, 3, 4 units to the left. Decimal once again starting at the back, but I'm going to count to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. And just like before, we have to move across one of those zeros. Zeros are always in front because 0, 1 is just 1, 0, 5 is just 5, or 5.0 is also just 5. So we have those decimals hanging around, so our answer would be 0.0450. We can write, we don't have to, hectometers, and that would be our answer. It does help to think about, does it seem reasonable? So I think some of these prefixes we're more comfortable with than others. For instance, centi, I think we all have an idea centimeter is very, very small. Hectometer, much larger. So it makes sense that a lot of centimeters still wouldn't be that many hectometers. It's still quite small. Versus if we have 20 hectograms, quite a large unit, it's going to be quite a few grams when we're going to those smaller units. Let's take another example. Let's take the 541 kiloliters and convert it to deciliters. Well, kilo, starting here, 1, 2, 3, 4. I have to move 4 units to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that does mean I'll have to insert those 4 zeros. So we end up with the number, let me write it out first. Get my commas in there. We have 5,410,000 deciliters. And a kiloliter, quite large, deciliter is quite small, so that seems reasonable. How many kilometers is 235,000 millimeters? My decimal is still at the back. I'm going to go up here to millimeters, all the way over here. To get to kilometers, I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 units all the way across. So I'm going to pick up that decimal and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my answer will be 0.235000 kilometers. That will be my answer. Now, as I said at the start of the video, you may have heard of some of these prefixes in a different context. For instance, the kilobytes, megabytes, things like that. So bytes are not actually a metric unit, but they are going to work the same way because all of these prefixes work the same. They're just prefixes that mean 10, the powers of 10. So let's take an example. How many kilobytes is 45.5 bytes? So we're starting with the 45.5. Even though, again, it's not a metric unit, our base unit is a byte. And so to get to kilo, we have to go 1, 2, 3 units to the left. So I'm going to pick up that decimal. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 units to the left. I'd insert the 0. 0.0455 bytes. And that would be my answer. So it's the same exact process. Even though byte, not a metric unit, it still works in the same way. You may have heard of the larger ones like megabytes. Megabytes are even larger than a kilobyte. So there are other prefixes. I've just shown you some of them today to show you how they work. But it is just all that idea of multiplying by powers of 10.